So we've had a week to digest Beyonce's masterpiece. That is Cowboy Carter. And I'm going to say something that's controversial, and I know y'all are gonna come for me. Beyonce is the greatest artist of all time. Not just musical artist, not just visual artist, the greatest artist of all time. Let's get into the video. If you're new here, my name is Kenim. You're watching Brand Video Pro. I love trolling you guys because people get in their feelings in the comments. Like, no, she's not. No. And sometimes I just say things and I just want to watch you guys but okay. I'm Kenim. You're watching Brand Video Pro. Welcome. You're welcome. Let us sit down. Let's discuss this. Is Beyonce the greatest artist of all time? Now, that's a really, really big claim, and I don't know. I'm just being dramatic before you come for me. But I will say that people always love to put her, her and Michael Jackson, greatest entertainer. I give it to Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson is the greatest entertainer of all time. Hands down, I get goosebumps when I think about Michael. I get goosebumps. I get so excited. It's so different. Incredible. But Beyonce, I think Beyonce was coming for Michael Jackson's category, and she came up, but what she has realized is that she doesn't need to come for greatest entertainer of all time. Because if you're really going to compete with entertainment and you just dissect what that means, it's about capturing people's attention. And in this new era that we're in, you can capture people's attention without music. You can do that with games and all these things. So you're telling me that Michael Jackson is greater than any video game that's ever come out, any, I don't know, Twitter, Instagram, all the things that entertain us and capture our attention. You're saying Michael Jackson is greater than that. And Beyonce understood that one single human being does not have the capacity to compete in this era, right? With all that is in the attention economy. So now, why do I put her in the greatest artist of all time, right? Why do I put her in the greatest artist of all time? That means every artist before her, whether it's a musical artist, a visual artist, a filmmaker, any kind of artist, Beyonce surpasses them, right? And is the greatest to ever do it. How can I just say that? How can I just create that kind of category for Beyonce? Because it's a different category. And now I'm not saying that that's what it is. I mean, I said it and I just was trolling you guys, but I want to put it out there and see, can we explore this and let's really dissect what this really means and why is Beyonce this great artist and you wouldn't compare it to Michael Jackson? Because I believe that Beyonce is an evolution of Michael Jackson based on, and she's using the tools of our generation, which obviously it's indisputable that the innovation that has happened over the last 40 years, surpasses that of what Michael Jackson was working with. So naturally, the way that Beyonce, the exponential growth potential and capacity of Beyonce, it's going to be much higher than that of Michael Jackson. So when you're looking at raw talent and raw tools and raw artistry, Michael Jackson obviously would surpass Beyonce, right? Because of he used the best practices within his era and his time. But today, Beyonce can innovate in so many verticals, from the people that she's able to reach out to and work with and collaborate with because of the internet and because of Instagram and her just DMing people or her team just finding people. So she already has this ensemble creative team that is robust and is obviously going to be superior to what Michael Jackson was able to put together in the 80s, right? Because, and then the fact that you can even just like make music, I could be in Japan and I could put a song together with someone from across the world in America, and I could innovate in that way. Michael Jackson's era, you have to be in the same studio, you have to go, first you have to find people. It's not that easy. Discoverability is not that easy. Then you have to fly them into America, and those things you don't have to do necessarily with Beyonce's putting her craft together. So naturally, the innovation is there that allows her to operate at a higher level than Michael Jackson was able to do. And then we talk about just the tools, the tech tools that she's able to use when she's crafting her music and designing it. And I really want us to really pay attention to Beyonce, because we will never get this anymore. It is the AI revolution. We are in Web 3. We're well into Web 3. So this is the last time that we're going to get artists. And there are literally AI websites that you can generate your own music. So this is why I can say that Michael Jackson in his era, the peak was greatest entertainer, right? Back then, what did you have competing with Michael Jackson's performances on television? Really? Now there's so many TikTok videos that will entertain me. I will discover so many incredible dancers from around the world in seconds. But Beyonce is still able to compete in this landscape because she's not focusing on being the best at grabbing attention and captivating our attention. She's focused on being the best all-round artiste. And this is why I can argue, this is why I can give the categories, I can give them separate categories and say that Beyonce is an evolution of Michael Jackson. Now, I say all this, let's break down, dissect this incredible masterpiece of an album. And let's talk a little bit about Beyonce's journey, because I talked to some people, I know they don't like this album, they don't like 2 songs, only 5 songs, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, whatever. You don't even listen to that. Like, for me, this Beyonce, I remember back in the 2000s or 10s when she was complaining about, when the Rihannas and stuff were coming out and they were just coming out with these singles that were smashes. And Beyonce was complaining about albums aren't even popping anymore. Beyonce gives clues about things that bother her and what she's going to focus on. So she was like, albums aren't even popular anymore. It's all about having a single. And so imagine an album is something of the past, right? Because of the nature, the dynamics of the CD release. But now that we're in the digital era, for Beyonce to still captivate us with a body of work, an album, an experience, first through cinema, then through storytelling, cinema and storytelling, and then through album experience and concert, matched with a concert experience. The Beyonce customer journey is a term that we use in business. This Beyonce customer journey is just transcending through time in so many ways. So let's dissect the craftsmanship and the artistry and the greatness that is Beyonce. And how is she able to captivate us in this way? Why is Beyonce the greatest greatest artist of all time? Let's look at Cowboy Carter. What about this album is just so great to me? For me, it's the refinement and the artistry in this album. Every song is meticulously crafted. And when I break down Beyonce, because there was a time when Beyonce wasn't dropping great albums. Let's be real. I've had an interesting dynamic with Beyonce. I was a super fan when I was a kid. As I got older, I was not maybe I'll tell this story another time, but I did meet her and I wasn't a fan anymore. So I kind of had this low-key suppressed resentment towards Beyonce because I didn't like the way that we met. But when Lemonade came out, it was undeniable. So I stopped I stopped messing with Beyonce. Imagine being this super fan, you meet your idol, which taught me never to idolize anybody. And so then I lost all respect for Beyonce. And even though I would play her music and stuff and I listened to it, I wasn't a fan. I wasn't really messing with her. Then she came out with Lemonade and I was like, oh, this woman is incredible. And that whole sort of Black empowerment angle, that was intriguing. that was innovation. And I was like, ooh, Beyonce. And so even though then I could recognize that she is an incredible artist, I still wasn't like a fan, or at least I would say I was suppressing my fanhood, my fandom. And I did that for a long time. I ended up meeting her again, and she was nice. But even though I met her again, this meeting was not even a real meeting. It was like anyway. But I still was like still holding on to that resentment, so I wasn't really like really messing with Beyonce's music. Then finally, last year, when obviously I started making all these videos and getting all these views from Beyonce, I was like, oh, maybe Beyonce is not that bad, and and just consuming more Beyonce's concerts and content, experiencing Beyonce, going to her show, and I was like, why am I suppressing this? I am in the beehive. I love Beyonce, and so I let it go. I think it was like 10-year resentment. I let it go. And I completely accept that I am a Beyonce fan. But the thing about me is that even if I don't like a person, I can still look at their art objectively. So I've always still consumed Beyonce's work, and I've watched the evolution of Beyonce. And I will say that I want to say pre-Lemonade, like her albums, she had like little hints of greatness sprinkled around, but Lemonade is when she really put it all together in a refined, way, and in a great body of work. And then the coupling of, the visual album. So she had started doing visual albums before that with different music videos, but in this one she made a film, and there was a craftsmanship in this, in this audio visual experience, and just even the audio engineering in the film side of things, and in the storytelling. She really innovated in that way in film. And I think that the next frontier for her has been about creating experiences. So she was, I don't think The Carters was great. I definitely didn't listen. And as much as I would say The Gift was a good album, and it was engaging, and it was entertaining, and she definitely innovated in terms of Afro beats, and she brought a new Afrofusion sound. She developed that sound that we're hearing Chris Brown and Tyla play with. She developed that sound, but I don't necessarily think those two albums had a uniform, streamlined refinement. And I think maybe it was COVID, because she started working on Cowboy Carter during COVID, and then she did Lemonade. But it's not Lemonade, sorry, Renaissance. But when I listen to Renaissance, this is to me when Beyonce became a full-bodied, high-level artist, right? So before, I would say she was in the sphere of musical entertainer, phenomenon with sprinkles of art here and there, but when she put the body of work, Renaissance out, with all the things that we've seen, because Beyonce, there's a progression, there's a growth. And now with Renaissance, it was like, oh, and I know she recorded Cowboy Carter first, but you can tell that when she went to Renaissance, she perfected Renaissance, she finished it, and then she came back to Cowboy Carter to refine some things. Because I remember I was watching a producer, one of her writers talking about her, like creating a song, then she'll go back, because she's a producer, she'll really remix it and just change it, and then it'll be a totally different experience. And she's like experimenting with these experiences. And I say all this to say that you could tell that she went back to fix up Cowboy Carter, in my opinion. And what is it about Renaissance that really stood out to me was this audio. She was really focused about experience and audio-visual experience, right? In the artistry. And mind you, I'm not discrediting pre-Renaissance era. I always talk about how Beyonce, the way she innovated in the past was, she first obviously mastered the vocals with Destiny's Child. The performances, she mastered that in that next era. The next thing was about attaching whatever she was designing to a movement, with and pioneering in that way. And then she started that with Lemonade. Then she's attached to the Carters, and then she did the Afro beats, and so she's strategic in the marketing and everything. And it was like, now Renaissance came around, and she went back into the artistry and really tried to figure out how she could refine that. And a lot of people come for Beyonce and say she steals from so many people. She's always, stealing, when they say great artists steal, right? There's a quote from Banksy, who stole it from Picasso. So it's like, great artists steal, by Picasso crossed out Banksy's name underneath. It's a great photo. And a work of art in itself. But that's what Beyonce does. Like, fair enough. Like, she's innovating in so many dimensions that obviously it's not going to all come from you. Like I said, she has this ensemble team, and then she's going to see stuff on the internet and steal it. Like, outright just steal it. Because, like, I guess it's like some parts of that is lazy. Like, I have a friend that she copied one of her reels, and it was like, oh, but my friend wasn't upset about it. Anyway, I say all this to say, there's this there's a refinement that she brought, that she made uniform in Renaissance, and and she's doing this sort of like genre bending experience thing in her music, where not only is she shifting the beat and changing things up, but even just the sounds that you're getting, in Renaissance, you're getting these different experiences, and she's putting it together, and she's using sounds that are familiar to you from past, different genres and different music time periods. And that is how she's innovating. Now, when it comes to Cowboy Carter, the reason why this album stuck out to me, because I'm not a country music fan. When I heard Beyonce was doing a country album, I was not thrilled. But funny enough, I think this is like I think this is my favorite Beyonce album, if not one of. Even more than Renaissance, because this album, she is doing Italian opera, she's doing country, she's doing R&B, she's doing hip hop, rap, and she's doing this amalgamation of different audio experiences, right? That you experience through different genres. And she has the vocals, just like the vocals in this album is just so incredible. And she's giving us like 70s pop music, all these different genres, but she's still also innovating in this. And so not only there's so many dimensions at which you could really dissect this, and you really have to sit down and just really listen to her music, but there's like I said, this genre bending experience and these sounds that she's putting together. There's the vocal what's the word? The vocal. I'm trying to use a word that just really says excellence, right? Just like you can see the craftsmanship and the growth of her vocal abilities. It's on a different height. And the range at which she plays with her vocals and uses her vocals as a tool to play with different sounds and different dimensions. Then, of course, we have the lyrics that are catchy, and these are standard Beyonce things, right? When you hear Beyonce lyrics, you know that this woman is extremely sassy. Like, people act like, oh, Beyonce has no personality, blah, blah, blah. She puts all of that into her art. All of that into her art, all of that into her music. That's where she innovates. That's where she tells you what she's thinking. That's where she responds. But I feel like people aren't paying attention. Beyonce is like extreme. She has so much personality. She's extremely sassy. And you hear it in her music, like filthy mouth. Filthy mouth. And there was another component I wanted to bring up about the music, if it comes back to me. But so there are all these different dimensions to her ability to give us this well-rounded experience. And then the last thing, and this is what I really want to break down, is the audio, what's the word? Technicality, the technician, the audio engineering is the engineering. Yes, that's the word. The audio engineering and the artistry in her choices in the audio engineering. Now, the song that I want to break down, and you can break down any song in the whole experience of this album, but the song I want to break down that really stuck out to me is the song Blackbird. and the way that it was recorded, and the symbolism in the way that it was recorded. I talked about this in another video, but this is the Beyonce video, so let me break it down, properly. So when you listen to Blackbird, we already know there's so many dimensions to it, right? We know it's a Paul McCartney song. He made it for the Beatles. And when you look at the history behind that song, we know about, Paul McCartney wrote it for the civil rights movement in America when, segregation in schools was lifted. And so he sang it about black girls going to school, like Blackbird, women is a bird. So we know the history behind this, and Beyonce is trying to open the door for black people. She's always trying to empower black people in some way, and she has to be subtle about it because of the way the world is, and doesn't want to uplift black people in those ways. But Beyonce always has to include that in the fabric of her DNA and her music, even though she disguises it for her to be more palatable for others to experience and just feel empowered in general. But her intention is about, uplifting black people, but she wants to be palatable to everybody. So there's that too. And so the meaning behind the songs, the choices, even just Beyonce doing a country album on its own, that's what people want to focus on, which I just like, why is that even a big deal? But she's being an activist in this way. So we have this song, great, right? And then another thing she does is the way that it's being recorded. And the audio engineering of that song. So if you listen to the song with two headphones, right? I believe it's the left ear, you're going to hear the acapella, the music. Sorry, the vocals, right? The acapella. It's just acapella. You hear no instruments, nothing. So this is on the left ear, right? On the right ear, you're going to hear just the instruments, and you hear a little bit of the voice, a little bit of the vocals. They're lower, the volume is lower, but you hear a little bit of it. So it's an interesting dynamic, but it gets even more specific with her artistry. What I noticed, like, let's say this is the microphone that Beyonce is using to record, right? With on the left ear, you can hear the vocals coming from the top left hand corner, hitting the vocals, right? And the music, I want you guys to confirm this, and if you hear it like that, but the way that I hear the music, they're coming from about this angle, the bottom right. And in a way, it almost is like, it kind of creates this sphere, this audio sphere that rounds it out together. But then the question you really have to say is like, why did she make this choice as a sound engineering thing? We're having people play with like 3D music where you're hearing sounds move from one side of the ear to the other in different dimensions, right? We hear, but that was a thing during like COVID or 2019 when that like started coming about. But this is so subtle, you may not even notice. If you listen to it in speakers, you're not going to hear it. You have to actually just listen to it with headphones. And this rounding, right? It's symbolism. So first of all, the vocals feel them coming from this angle, in my opinion, has to do with it being this heavenly, coming from above, kind of like when you on a sunny day, you see the birds on the sky, blackbird symbolism. Also this idea of the heavens. So you're having these beautiful vocals coming from the heavens. You're being serenaded from the heavens, right? With this brightness, and then this rounding in the music so that you could still hear it. Like it's almost like the engineering made the music round. It was recorded in that dimension. That's what it sounds like. And I know that they have the skills to do this with the tools that we have these days. So we have the music at the bottom, the instruments coming on this side at the bottom, and it's almost like, not only does it round it out, and it's almost like, you're getting like this healing from above, and then you're being caught, right? You're being protected by the ground with the music. So it's almost, you're in the middle of this sphere. That's the experience that I had when I was listening to this music. And I think that's really the symbolism that Beyonce was playing with. And that type of intention, because you have to ask, okay, why would she do that? Think about what the song is about. So it's like she's crafting these experiences that stem from, a theme, a theme of empowerment. So you see how Beyonce is progressing as an artist. She first started out, like I said, mastering the vocals of Destiny's Child, then, thinking about being intentional about the songs that she sings and the movements that she's pushing forward, to coming out with these releases that were movements. And she's, when she's coming out with an album, in the Lemonade era, she's paying attention to, like, what is the public consciousness online? What is the discourse online? She taps into that, and she sort of like pushes the movement, and it keeps her relevant, right? So now she's taking it a step further, and she's now taking it, she understands the discord around Black people in country music, and just racism in general, and like, is like, why is that even still a thing? And she's incorporating it in her music in a subtle way to say, Blackbird, you're going to be protected. This sphere of protection is there to protect you, to have you. So there's so many layers to the artistry of Beyonce that is intentional. And that's my interpretation of the music. I want to hear you guys go listen to it. Tell me your interpretation. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Because, like, there's always going to be someone in the comments like, no, that's not what she was. So let me know. Listen to the song. Do you hear the music? And I really want the audio engineers up in here to tell me if you can hear what I'm saying, because you guys have some of the amazing speakers and stuff. You might be able to even see things that I can't see because I can't pull this up in Pro Tools or something. So listen to it. Tell us. Leave a comment down below. Let me know. So those are two things. Another thing that Beyonce did which is very strategic, is whenever Beyonce enters a movement that she's foreign to, she's very strategic about her collaborations. So when she did Afrobeats, she didn't want people to call her an appropriator. So she made sure she had all the top Afrobeats acts on her album. So that, like, opens the door for her to do what she does. Now, with country music, there was clearly a sort of like conservative white American, sort of like distaste for her coming into that genre. And that's why I believe she did this album, because she sang at the Country Music Awards and some people left. Some of the white supremacists in there just like walked out because they didn't like the idea of a Black woman performing in country, when we know the history of Black people in country music, the banjo coming from Africa. Even though, in my opinion, I would not even say that what we experience as country music today has anything to do with Blackness. And personally, I am not a fan of it. But I understand, whatever. But so it's, the intention of Beyonce doing this. So she says now she's going to bring the country greats from the past. Everybody from, like, radio hosts to freaking Dolly Parton to freaking Miley Cyrus. And then she's going to bring people that are relevant today. Miley Cyrus, and then she's gonna bring people that have dabbled into hip hop and appropriated hip hop, but leave hip hop when it doesn't serve them anymore. So why can't Beyonce just do country when she is country? So that was Post Malone, who's a hip hop artist, and Miley Cyrus, who had her hip hop era, appropriating Black culture and all that stuff, and the whole world, like, celebrated her for it. So Beyonce is very intentional, and she's like, well, if they can do that, I can do it too. Right? So she's like, I'm going to go into country. I am literally from Texas with my origins from Louisiana. My mom's from Louisiana, Beyonce. So of course, like, she's like as country as it gets. Why shouldn't she be allowed to make country music? It's insane. And then you have people who probably aren't even country, just because they're white, making country music. How is that acceptable? So that to me, she's very intentional. And all of these things, the different categories, the segmentation of what makes Beyonce great. And I haven't even fully dissected it. I've just said what is top of mind. But all these, sections that makes Beyonce great. Then, of course, her relevance, her ability to captivate the whole public consciousness for 2 weeks and more when she's dropping something. Who does that? Who has that ability? When you put all these things together, coupled with the innovation that we're in, I say Beyonce is the greatest artist that we have had to date. And I say that we're not going to get that anymore. And I know people are going to say, well, you're not going to compare her with Mozart. You're not going to compare her with all these people. Beyonce literally has Italian opera in her songs. does she have a classical music song? She has so many genres. She's genre bending. She innovates through genre bending. I talked about Drake in my last video and how he doesn't have the abilities of the artistry. Like, Drake is also a genre bender, but he just kind of appropriates, right? He doesn't have the artistry and refinement that Beyonce has when she does genre bend, and she does it at the highest upper echelon of innovation and creativity and artistry. Drake, I don't think that he doesn't have the potential. I think Beyonce has been in the game way longer than him. She probably works 10 times harder than him. She's also dancing and performing in her, she's really like, and she has the ability to pull the team and with the intention, right? So if Drake put it all together, maybe if he elevated and surrounded himself with greatness, maybe in like 5-10 years, he could step into this sphere that Beyonce is in, but I don't think that he's there. And so, greatest artist of all time, I put it there. And I will still put Beyonce in the top 2 greatest entertainers of all time. But if we're going to say who are the greatest entertainers or what are the greatest entertainers of all time, you're going to put social media before Michael Jackson. No respect to Michael Jackson. What's of all time? What's getting our attention? And then you could put social media, then you put Michael Jackson. And then you might put Beyonce, or maybe you'll put films. I don't know, but you get what I'm saying. But in terms of the human that is the greatest entertainer of all time, yes, Michael Jackson's number 1, Beyonce is number 2. Greatest artist of all time, you're going to put Beyonce number 1, right? That's just what I think. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about my analysis? What do you think about how I've segmented and broken this down? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment down below. You're watching Brand Video Pro. I'm your host, Kenim O. And make sure, book a consultation with me. Why do I do this? Book a consultation with me. Business, strategy, innovation, AI, content marketing, all that stuff. Book a one-on-one. Go to autocreate.com. I'm back. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, all the above. And I'll see you next time.